Well, we're talking about dating tonight, and I would like to begin with a quote from David Brooks. He's a columnist for the New York Times, and he wrote an article about the social frontier facing the young modern single, and this is what he said. They hit puberty around 13, and many don't get married until they're past 30. That's 2 decades of coupling, uncoupling, hooking up, relationships, shopping around. This period isn't a transition anymore. It's a sprawling life stage, and nobody knows the rules. Once young people came a call-in as part of courtship. Then they had dating and going steady. But the rules of courtship have dissolved. They've been replaced by ambiguity and uncertainty. Cell phones, Facebook, text messages, they give people access to hundreds of, quote, friends. But that only increases the fluidity, drama, and anxiety. And I'll tell you, I don't know David Brooks, but in my experience of living among young singles, I would say I hear this all the time. Ambiguity, uncertainty, drama, and it all produces anxiety. And it makes me sad that something that should be associated with words like fun and exciting, we're talking about young love, are more often associated in the conversations I have with you with words like sad and exhausting and stressful. And it shouldn't be like that. And yet the fact remains this, that most of you in the room are single. And, all right, okay, some people feeling good about that. Most of you will also be married. And most of you will pass from singleness into marriage in your 20s. That's the story for most of you. That you're gonna take this journey, this process of evaluating people that will land you into walking with someone, Lord willing, into forever. And last week we talked about who you should be linked up with. And we gave you a bunch of different attributes, but they really just boil down to 2 categories. You're looking for character and you're looking for chemistry. You're looking for character. Someone who doesn't just claim to believe that there's a deity, but someone who is pursuing God and the things of God. You want a man or a woman like that they have a deep, God-shaped character. And then you want to look for chemistry, that it's someone you like hanging out with, you enjoy talking to, you click. You need both. And some people just want chemistry. You meet someone that you're like, oh my gosh, she's so funny, we can talk for hours, but you don't have these deeper conversations about what are their core values in life. And so you get married and you see it all the time, that hot, fun, cool, cute couples get together, and then 5, 6, 7 years, when they start making big life decisions, they realize they have a very different set of values, and those marriages come apart. Or then on the other side, you can have someone that has just a deep, stalwart character, but they're so boring. And after an hour, you just run out of things to say. And you don't have to do that to yourself. So you need both. That they have a solid, godly character and there's chemistry. You get along. And so we gave you this picture of running, of that you are meant to be as a single person devoted to the Lord, that I'm chasing after the things of God, pursuing God, and using the gifts and abilities and time and influence He's given me to be a blessing to all people who are made in the image of God. That's my life. I'm in a pursuit of Him. And as I'm doing that, a lot of people are gonna be around. And some people are gonna cross my path right in front of me, and they might be cute, but they're running a totally different direction, pursuing other things than God. They're pursuing money, happiness, fame, whatever. And you go, okay, that person's cute, but I'm not gonna grab hold of them because their life's going one way and mine's going another, and that's not a good combo. So I'm gonna let all kinds of cute people pass me by if they're not pursuing the things of God. And yet when you chase after the Lord, after a while, you're gonna look around and there's gonna be people chasing along with you. And as you're running along with these people, you're gonna start talking to a few of them and checking them out and be like, okay, and kind of run up next to that person and start to talk to them and start to see, do we have chemistry? Do I like talking to you? Are you fun to be with? And as that happens, you find someone to run with in life. And that's the vision we gave you of what marriage is supposed to be. Marriage is not you looking deep into the eyes of someone and saying, in your eyes, I am complete, right? That's too much weight to put on another human being. You're not half a person waiting for another half a person that's your soulmate, right? That's not how you're built, right? And some people hate on the term soulmate. I don't know how to feel about it. Like, do I think God has the one for you? I think God rules all things in the universe, by the way. And so does he have the one for you? Yeah, he might have the three for you. Elizabeth Elliot was a godly woman. She married a guy who died very young, and she remarried a guy that died, and she remarried again. She was a godly woman, and she ended up having 3 husbands over the course of her life. I don't know what God's plans are for you. But if you're saying I'm looking for a soulmate and that it's someone who will just complete my soul, that's not what a human being's designed to do. You're not meant to stare into each other's eyes and find eternity and bliss. You're meant to grab hands and run out into the world together. That's why you want to marry someone that's going the same direction at the same pace, that you run together into the drama of life. So let me dispel a myth right here at the front. You don't want to date someone that's all drama. I knew you were trouble when you walked in. Then why did you date him? You don't date that person. That makes no sense. You don't, and some people feel that. You go, man, dating is supposed to be tumultuous. Like, I hate you, but I love you. And it's supposed to have all this drama. Don't date drama. Don't marry drama. Life brings enough drama. You get together with a low drama person, y'all link hands and run into the drama of life together, supporting each other. You don't want to be linked up with someone that you go, I just never know when he's going to turn on me, right? You don't want that person. You don't marry crazy. You face life's crazy with someone that's chasing the things of God along with you. That's what marriage is supposed to be. And that was last week, the who. Now we got to talk about the how, because some of you are saying, I want that person. How do I get that person? What process can we go through because it's so ambiguous? What are the rules? What am I supposed to do? It's all crazy. I remember talking to a girl that in exhaustion at one point said, I just wish everyone had a symbol on their head. And you just had to find the person with the corresponding symbol, and that was the one you were supposed to marry. She's like, it would be so much easier. But that's not what's happening. That's not how it's going to work. You must pass through a process of evaluation. And in different cultures and in different times in history, that process of evaluation has looked differently. Now it's called dating. That it's a process of evaluating a person and saying, are you a good fit for me to link with for the rest of my life? Dating is a process. And I keep coming around that word because a process has movement to it. It's a series of actions unto a predetermined end. That I'm interacting with someone unto the end of discerning, are we meant to run into eternity together? Dating is not a status that you sit in. Well, I guess we're dating, and just hang out in. It's meant to have movement to an end, which is marriage, right? And there's a lot to say about this process. The Bible doesn't talk about dating per se. There's not a verse about, and Moses took Zipporah unto Chili's. You're not going to find that. But the Bible says a lot about how to evaluate. And so as we talk about the modern system of dating, you can debate whether or not it's the right way to do it. But given what is, the Bible speaks about how to evaluate if someone's the right fit for you. And I want to give you 7 things when we talk about how to date. And we're not going to have time to get into all this with depth. It's killed me to have to cut out so much, but we're in a series that'll keep rolling on, Lord willing. So we'll just jump in as far as we can get before the clock runs out. But 7 things of how I should date that will give me a pathway through the chaos into linking up with someone into forever. The first thing, how should I date, is prayerfully. Prayerfully. Romans 8:28 says, and we know God causes all things to work together for the good of those who love God. 1 Peter 5 says, cast your anxiety on God because he cares for you. 1 John 4 says, we've come to know and believe the love which God has for us. There's no fear in love. Perfect love casts out fear. Do you hear where I'm going with that? That I want to pray. Why? Because when I do, I realize I'm linked up with the God who works all things for the good of those who love him. And I can cast my anxieties onto him because he cares for me. And there's no fear in love. His perfect love casts out fear. When you start thinking about who am I going to end up with, how am I going to meet him, where's it all going to go, I want you to enter in prayerfully. Why? Because it releases anxiety and releases fear. When you rest in the sovereign love of God, it takes desperation out of dating. That suddenly I'm not clutching it. I may not meet him. I'm going to run out of time. What do I got to do? It liberates you from having to work it to try to get someone's attention. You don't have to do that. You go, I know my God is leading me in a good way. Genesis chapter 24 is the longest chapter in Genesis, and it's all about Abraham, the father of faith, finding a wife for his son Isaac. And he gets his most trusted servant to go back home and to find him a wife, and he tells the servant, you go back to my people and get a wife for my son. And the guy says, what if the wife's not willing to come with us? Abraham and his son Isaac were living on the cutting edge of faith, serving God in a remote place. And he says, what if the woman's not willing to join him in the call of God? And Abraham said to him, the Lord, the God of heaven, who took me from my father's house, the land of my kindred, who spoke to me and swore to me, to your offspring I will give this land. He will send an angel before you and will take a wife for my son. But if the woman's not willing to follow you, then you're free from my oath. Do you hear the perspective? He says, the God of heaven will provide a wife for my son. And if he doesn't, I'm not worried about it. That's his perspective. He says, I trust God with my life. And the more you rest in that, it liberates you from not trying to manipulate us, but just being able to be a blessing when you're among us, trusting that like Ruth and Boaz, as you're doing the work of God out in the field of God, you'll look up and go, who's that over there picking wheat, right? And you'll begin to move together. Proverbs 3 says, trust the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him. He will make your path straight. Do you trust him with your dating life? Consecrate it to him. Because when you do that, it takes the desperation out of dating and frees it up to be what it is, a process of evaluation. So let's say you're running along and pursuing the things of God, and you see someone that's cute that you think's kind of fun running along with you. I hope you're involved in a church, in a Christian community, and I hope you're all doing stuff together. You're going out and playing games together, you're brunching together, you're doing all that stuff, and while you're doing it, you find someone you really want to spend time with, and you go, I want to move towards that person. What should I do? I prayed about it, Ben. Now what? Step 2 is how do you date with clarity? With clarity. That Ephesians chapter 4 says of Christians, we speak the truth in love to one another. Proverbs 24:26 says an honest answer is a kiss on the lips. It's a gracious thing to tell someone the truth. And honesty doesn't mean a full disclosure of every thought in your head. Proverbs celebrates prudence. That is the weighing of our words carefully. Sometimes the first thought that pops in your head isn't really what you believe or think or should say. And yet in the world of dating and gender relationships, there's so much ambiguity, and what the world really needs is some clarity. Proverbs 29:18 says, where there is no vision, the people perish. That word perish is also translated are unrestrained, are disturbed, are out of control, disorderly. Where there's no vision, where there's no leader saying we're going that way. People feel out of control, they feel disturbed, and it's not life-giving. It's not a good place. Normally when you hear someone say, where are we? It's not accompanied with happy feelings. And it's the same with dating. In dating, we need clarity. We need clarity of invitation. In men, that's on you. In 2012, there was a national survey that indicated only 12% of American women asked anyone out the previous year. 12%. Isn't that fascinating? That was not just of Christians. That's in all of America in our liberal day. They asked women, have you asked someone out in the past year? Only 12% said yes. So whatever you believe about male-female relationships, what's the end goal? Women want men to initiate. And according to recent polls, they prefer you do it face-to-face. What comes second? Some say texting, some don't like it. Some like calling, some don't. Good luck with that. But most of them like face-to-face. As I did my informal polls with women, I found that universally, they hate the words hanging out. It was amazing the looks of revulsion I received from that. Girls did not like the lack of clarity associated with being asked to hang out. What does that mean? They wanted clarity. And I even asked them, do you want them to use the word date? Because some girl said, use the word date. And I was like, time out. Do the rest of you think you should use the word date? And they're like, yeah, because at least I know what I'm getting into. So use the word date. I would like to ask you on a date. Or if that feels too weird, plan something and then take them to that thing, right? For me, when I dated in college, it was an absolute train wreck, and I just had to stop. I mean, it was not good. I'll tell those stories maybe someday. Let me tell you about when I did it right with Donna. When I started dating Donna, I remember we were hanging out with big groups of Christian people because that's what I did, and I watched the way she treated people, served people, and I just thought, this is an amazing girl. And I remember there was a group of us going out to a movie, so I said, hey, a big group of us is going out to a movie. Would you like to join us? And she said yes. And so we all went out to the movie. It wasn't a date, but we sat by each other and we visited with each other, and after that, I called her. And I said, hey, my brother's in town, and he's got this New Year's Eve thing he's going to, and he invited me, and I need a date. Would you like to come with me? And she said yes. And so we went, and at the end of it, thank you. Yeah, I felt really good about that. When it ended, at the end of the date, I said to her, hey, this was a lot of fun. Can I call you again? And she said yes. So I called her again and said, hey, there's a play showing downtown I'd like to see. Will you go with me? And she said yes. We never made it to the play because we had some friends whose child ended up in the neonatal ICU, and we literally had to divert the car and go straight into a crisis situation where I had to minister to some good friends, and I got to see how she reacted in that moment, and it was spectacular. And so we were clear with what we're trying to do, and I learned about here, clarity of intentions. Don't play games. Well, I'll just flirt a little bit, maybe I'll wait, and then like text 2 weeks later. That's for people with nothing better to do. If you're a Christian, we believe this world's going to hell, but we have the hope for the world. We have the answer. We are in the middle of trying to save lives and souls with every bit of influence we have. We don't have time to mess around. So say what you mean and mean what you say, right? And be clear about the process. And so what does that mean? Does that mean when you see a cute girl, you come up to her and go, I would like to begin the process of courtship now unto you? No, no, no. It means if you enjoy talking to her, say, hey, I really enjoyed this. Can I call you? Or say, hey, this was really fun. Would you be willing to go to dinner with me? And after dinner, say, do you mind if I call you? And a couple dates in, she's gonna start thinking some things. And that's when you need to say something to her like, hey, I want you to know I'm not trying to get married like next week, but I'm not just messing around and wasting your time either. I've really enjoyed getting to know you, and I'm not looking to get married like next month, but I think you're the kind of person I could see myself marrying, and so do you mind if I just keep calling you? And then what I think you do is give them clarity on an exit. I think right after that you say, hey, and I want you to know, if at any point in this you say, hey, I'm not comfortable with this, you have every right to say that to me, and we're done. And I trust the Lord with my life, and I trust the Lord with your life. So if this is in any way uncomfortable, we'll just stop. There's no pressure. And you give her a big door out. 1 Corinthians 14 says, God is not a God of confusion, but a God of peace. Jesus, when he was described, they said he was full of grace and truth. And so we graciously speak the truth to one another to give them clarity. And ladies, you reciprocate with honesty. Don't just freeze him out and never respond to the text, right? You tell him. If he asks you out and you're not interested, say, you seem like a great guy, but I can't see it going anywhere, honestly. Or maybe you say, yeah, I'm comfortable moving forward. And I've talked to girls whose men did this, husbands now, and I remember talking to one and she said, I loved the clarity he gave me. Every couple dates he would just talk about where we are. She said, I always knew where I stood. I didn't have to guess what he thought. And so we're prayerful with clarity, but always with a sense of autonomy. Autonomy, that's your next one. And you go, what does that mean? Well, here's what that means. The Bible acknowledges a few relational categories. The first is believer in Jesus Christ, non-believer. And the Bible's very clear. You don't date across those lines because you have different allegiances in different directions. You're meant to love that person and be kind to them, but your primary goal in their life is to see them have an eternal relationship with God, not a romantic one with you. And so you don't date them, right? And then what other relationships come? Within the circle of Christians, you have brother and sister in Christ, or husband and wife, when you've crossed that line of making a covenant with one another unto forever. And when you make that covenant with one another, that brings into your life a whole different set of Bible verses that bring with them responsibilities and privileges that are not there for the single brother and sister in Christ, right? But here's where the problem lies. In our culture today, we want to create this interim category called, but we're dating. That's my boyfriend, that's my girlfriend. And what we try to do when we say those words is we say, okay, we're not just brother and sister, but we're not married, we're not gonna take on all that weight, but we're something else. And this something else gives me certain responsibilities and affords me certain privileges. And this is where all of your confusion lies. Because you go, what are the rules here? And you bump into the responsibilities. Hey, why didn't you text me today? Why don't you text me? You're supposed to text me throughout the day. I'm supposed to text. Yeah, you're my boyfriend. You're supposed to text me. Oh, I didn't know that. Hey, so are we going out tonight? Well, I'm going out with my girlfriends. Wait, what? We're dating. I thought you were supposed to. Why are you going out with that? I thought we hung out on the weekend. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know that. Okay. Next time I will call you before I make plans with my friends. I'm so sorry. Forgive me. And we have these responsibilities we bump into. Or we get these privileges. Okay, when she was just my Christian acquaintance or Christian sister, I couldn't touch her in certain ways, but now she's my girlfriend. So I get access to her rear. And not like at the mall, we're not gonna be weird about it. But like at her apartment. We'll just be watching a show and I have my arm around her waist and then my arm will get tired, right? And that's okay, because she's my girlfriend. Or my tongue gets to go in her mouth now because she's my girlfriend. And we create this new relationship that has these different responsibilities and different privileges. There's only one problem. The Bible does not recognize this status. You're either brother and sister or you're husband and wife. There's not this intermediate thing. And that's where so much of you get confused. We make dating a status rather than a process. And if I can enter into this status, now I get certain responsibilities and certain privileges. And this is where we get confused, and this is where we get hurt. And this is where I get so many questions from y'all that don't make sense if you think about dating as a process. Someone will come to me and say, hey, my boyfriend and I've been dating for years. How do we keep the love alive? What? I don't know. If you're not feeling it, don't hang out with him. Dating is evaluation, and if you're bored, don't stay there, right? Or someone go, hey, we've been dating for a while, and I think we're supposed to go to church together. How do I tell her that she's supposed to go to church with me now? She's supposed to? What? What's she supposed to do with you now to church? Does she not go to church? That's a problem. And if dating is about evaluation, that's an interesting piece of information you need to know, right? Or you go, you know what, we're dating. How far is too far? 1 Timothy 5 says, treat older women as mothers, younger women as sisters with absolute purity. How far is too far with your mom? How far is too far with your sister? The Bible doesn't recognize this separate status. But I've had some of you come to me and say, well, it's like we're married. No, it's like you're not. Because when you seriously take on the weight of saying, I'm gonna care for all of you till I die, that's a different weight. And that affords you all kinds of privileges and shoulders you with all kinds of responsibilities. But in here where you say, well, I want the privileges, but I don't want the weight of loving you forever. God doesn't acknowledge that as a status. He doesn't see that. So I had someone come up to me and say, man, I really want to be involved with some of this mission stuff you're talking about, making a difference in the world, but my boyfriend's just not really into it. And I said, I don't even understand what you're saying. And she was like, and I said, are you saying that you and him spend all your time together so you don't have time to serve at your church and other places? She said, yeah. And I said, when you die, that won't hold up well with God. Oh, she wanted to serve me, but boyfriend, and cross it out. No. I said, he doesn't own you. He has no claim on you. You have to make your own decisions, and you're accountable for those decisions before God. Now, when you're married, that game changes. But until you're married, you do your life, and he does his, and you will be held accountable for how you live your lives. And so you watch how they live their life. Well, is he supposed to go to church to me? Just watch him. Does he go to church? Good. Evaluation point. If he doesn't, cross him off the list, right? Is he fighting against sin? I'll hear a girl say, well, we're fooling around sexually, but it's because my boyfriend his needs are so strong. It's not like other people, and so I have to be there for him. And you go, no. You're evaluating him. And if his struggle with pornography means he's looking at it every week, he's not struggling. He's getting his butt kicked. And you don't need to come help him. You don't. You step back and watch him, because what kind of guy do you want to marry? Some guy that faces a real struggle in his life and folds like a lawn chair? No. You want a guy that when he faces the very real and very difficult struggle with pornography to say, you know what? I'm going to dust myself off, get some friends, get together, hold each other accountable, and make war against this. That's the guy you want to marry. The guy who's like David, who kills Goliath and then comes back and gets married to you. You want to marry a warrior like that, not some guy that's like, I'm just struggling, so show me your boobies. Get out of there. You are not obligated in this moment. You have to live your own life, your own way, and God will hold you accountable for your life, right? That's why I say, when people come up to me and say, hey man, I've been hanging out with this girl, we're trying to figure out when to make it like official, like Facebook official or whatever, like what's your advice? And I always ask them, I always say this, so if you're thinking of asking me this, here's what I'm gonna say. I'll say, are you ready to get married in the next 6 months? And normally the guy goes, what? No. And I said, then you don't need to be in a rush to expedite naming this. Because what you're trying to do is get security and comfort by locking her down, saying she's my girlfriend. What does that mean? It means other guys can't get her. And it means I have a certain claim on her. You don't. Not under God, you don't. She can do whatever she wants. When I was dating Donna, the process of dating her, I was telling her all along, you have to make your decisions under God of where you're gonna go and how you're gonna serve and what you're doing. And I'm really enjoying getting to know you, and I could see this going to marriage, but up until then, we make our own decisions. So if you feel like you need to get out of this, you can tell me that. And she would say, you don't have to keep telling me that. And I would say, yeah, I do, because I'm saying it to me. And so for those of you who are going, oh my gosh, I already have a boyfriend, I already have a girlfriend, we all have to break up tonight. Why did we come to Breakaway? I don't care if you use that word boyfriend or girlfriend. I don't care. But when you got your little flashcards and the word boyfriend is written on the front, the definition on the back for many of us, even though we won't say it out loud, is that gives me certain responsibilities and certain privileges. And I'm telling you, it doesn't. Not under God. So you can call yourself her boyfriend, she can call you boyfriend, you can call her girlfriend, I don't care. But when you intersect with her, you need to say, I have no rights to her body. I have no claim on her life. She's not mine. She's a daughter of God and she's a Christian sister, and I will treat her as such. And there's a lot more that comes to that, but we're gonna have to move fast. What am I on point 3? Oh geez. This is gonna be, I don't know how we're gonna do this. Anyway, that ties into point 4, and that is purity. Purity. And you go, why should we be pure? Aren't we supposed to figure out if we're sexually compatible? That to me is one of the most asinine arguments I've ever heard. Well, we gotta fool around. How are we gonna figure out if we're sexually compatible? Are you a guy? Is she a girl? Your parts are gonna fit. There's been a lot of research on that. And so what do people mean when they say that? What they mean is technique. Well, what if he's a sloppy kisser? If you're pursuing a man of character, a man who's gonna be gentle with you and caring and listen to you and promise you to love you in sickness and health until death do you part, if you've got a guy like that who will lay down his life for you, do you think he won't be open to some pointers on how to kiss? You marry character. Ladies, you find a guy that's gentle, patient, understanding, and strong, and all that character will translate into the bedroom. Men, you marry a girl who's responsive, tender, patient, encouraging. All that character will translate into the bedroom, and you will figure it out together. That's what the first year of marriage is for. But you marry someone that has a godly character that's caring and tender and loving for you, and you guys will figure it out, and it'll be fun. She doesn't have to figure it out with someone else. Well, I want to be a little more experienced before I get there. No, figure it out together. We got to have experience with each other first to see if it's a good fit. That is so selfish. Because what happens if you get married and you do get hurt? What happens if you get MS and you can't pick up your arms anymore? You're going to be married to someone that goes, well, I married you for sexual compatibility and it looks like that changed, so I'm going to go for a younger model. You don't want that. You pursue character, and that will take care of itself. And the other point about sexuality I just want to press is that it really sabotages the evaluation process. 1 Corinthians 6, Paul speaks about this. He says, do you not know that he who is joined to a prostitute becomes one in body with her? And it sounds like an obvious statement. Yeah, if you join with a prostitute, you become one body. That's not rocket science, Paul. What he's saying is, no, it's more than just physical, because then he quotes the Old Testament, for as it is written, the two become one flesh. What he's saying is sex is more than just physical. It is. It's meant for bonding. There was an article in Psychology Today that was talking about breakups, and it was so fascinating. It says the duration of a romantic relationship does not always correlate with the severity of the breakup. Instead, the intensity of the bond established directly correlates with the symptoms of experiencing a breakup. What affects bonding? The amount of time together and physical contact. Because sexuality is not just something fun we do to feel good. It's made for bonding. And Psychology Today, which has no Christian goals or influence, says when we break up, they go, what happens is physical contact with your partner can create an intimacy and a bonding through the neurotransmitter dopamine. Your mind takes a dopamine bath. And they say with the release of that dopamine, a simple region of the brain called the limbic system begins to associate that person with dopamine release and seeks out that person. So when you break up, the brain goes into panic mode. The fight or flight response of cortisol and adrenaline kicks in, increases heart rate, prepares your fight or flight. Breakups can induce panic, nausea, tears, headache, gastrointestinal distress. Why? Because you've made yourself physically addicted to that person. And that messes up the evaluation process. In Hebrew, do you know what the word was that was used often of a husband and a wife? Halup. It means best friend. That you want to marry somebody that's your friend. And you've got to feel out that friendship. But what happens when you shoot the system up with sex? You get hooked on the sexual experience and you start to lose the ability to evaluate properly whether or not this is a person you like to be friends with. But as you get into marriage and sex is normalized and the buzz of that wears off, do you have a friend left? That's the question. And so it's like trying to figure out if two chemicals mix and someone keeps throwing gasoline on the fire. When you throw sexuality into it, it distorts your ability to even evaluate, is this person a good friend? It makes you stay longer in relationships you shouldn't be in. And it makes the breakup so painful, so painful. And some of you that I've talked to and counseled, your deepest pain comes, why? Because you gave, and it's not just your body, you gave so much of you to somebody, and it wasn't the right somebody. So you be careful. Wait. Don't arouse and awaken love until it pleases. Now, we're out of time. I'm not going to get to the rest of these tonight, but let me say this. As soon as I mention that, I feel the silence in this room. Why? Because so many of us hear that and it makes sense. And so many of us have fallen so far short of that. And you go, well, Ben, I've already made a mess. I've already done things. I've already said things. I've already been a part of things. I'm doing them right now. And that's why I love the song that Jordan sang over us, this hymn of truth, that I'm dirty. I ashamed of what I've done and what I've become. But what's the turn? But he pleads my cause. He says that I'm free. How can that be? That's the gospel. Jesus didn't come for a pristine bride. He came for a dirty, broken, defiled one. That's all of us. That's all of us. We all come to him dirty. We all come a mess. And what happens? His love forgives. His love cleanses. His love takes shame away. So even if you've had all kinds of experiences sexually that you go, well, Ben, this godly person isn't even going to be interested in me. If that person's not willing to marry you because you've had a devastating sexual past, good riddance to that guy, because he's not like Jesus. She's not like Jesus. Jesus loved us when we were broken. You want a gracious person like that. But that's not a blank check to keep sinning. It's hurtful to you and to other people. What do? What you do is you say now, Lord, I'm yours. Lord, I want to pursue you. I want to chase after you. And when you run up alongside that person, it won't be at date 1, 2, 3, maybe even date 200, but somewhere down the line as you're getting closer to marriage, you'll have a conversation and you'll tell him, hey, there's some things in my past we need to talk about that I'm not proud of. But there came a day in March of 2016 where God got a hold of my life and he changed me. And I've walked in holiness and purity since with the help of some friends and people who love me. And I walked with him and he brought me to you. And that's a great story. That's an awesome story. That's the story of grace. That's the message we preach here. That's the God who made you.